What's up, guys? It is JZNES back again. No gimmicks this time. We're just going for it. This time we've got Uncharted 3. Uncharted 3 here. No, but Uncharted 3. Drake's Deception? Yeah? Yeah. Got it. Got the subtitle this time. Which is my favorite of the Uncharted games and remains so after having replayed them now recently. I still think it's the best of the Uncharted games. Everyone seems to think that 2 is. This is of the ones that I've played so far. Now, I know I haven't played 4 yet, and I know 4 is supposed to be sort of the Metal Gear Solid 4 of Uncharted games. So, I'm looking forward to that, definitely. But out of the 3, this is definitely the strongest entry to me. I think that it has the most solid and impactful storyline. All the set pieces are really very well done, and it's really cool. And I don't know, I kind of like the jungle setting of the first game, but a lot of the desert stuff near the end of this game is pretty cool. I like how you go to a variety of different places in this game too. There was a pretty good variety in the first game. I feel like the second game didn't have that great of a variety of stuff, but the storyline coincides with a lot of the great set pieces, which I think is cool. So it's just really well integrated and really well done. The gameplay is at its most solid here. Finally, they kind of got the duck and cover system down. It's still not as good as like Metal Gear Solid. You still can't like attach yourself to edges super well. But yeah, it's just, you know, it is what it is. So, yeah, I think that this is definitely the best of the trilogy there. They finally kind of have everything perfected, and they're at the perfect spot. Even the jumps and stuff, I wasn't as confused as, like, let's say the first game. And even a lot of times in the second game, there weren't a lot of jumps here where it wasn't very clear where I needed to go. It was always pretty clear where I was going, and the gameplay was very kinetic because of that, and I definitely appreciate that overall. So, and I think this comes back to the game sort of being another. Now it gets the elements of like, okay, we're not exactly on a personal journey, but it comes back to Nathan, or not Nathan Drake, Francis Drake, the original Drake, and his whole storyline. And kind of, he got sidetracked at one point in this like certain area of the world, and that's kind of where the story starts and whatnot. So it felt back in the lineage of being a personal story again. And it wasn't about Marco Polo or whatever, which was really dumb. And I don't know why they did that. That was just, it's so sidetracked to what they were actually, you know, like, you don't have to have every story be about Francis Drake. It could be about anything. I just thought the way that connected to Nathan Drake's character, and a lot of the stuff, like, you get to see a lot of when he was a kid, so you get to kind of have his backstory, which is really cool. How he meets Sully and all that, which is pretty cool. And I appreciate stuff like that. And it's actually kind of a reference to Indiana Jones 3, The Last Crusade there, which is my favorite of the Indiana Jones movies as well. So, yeah, it's just, I like this a lot, and I like that there was parts in the past and parts in the present, and then they had a lot of, like, kind of trippy, weird stuff because of this drug, and then, like, later on you're in the city. Spoilers, I guess, by the way, for Uncharted 3 there. But yeah, so when you're in the city and the water like makes you hallucinate and stuff, all that stuff's kind of pretty cool. I legitimately spoilers, by the way. Spoilers. I legitimately thought when, at the end, when they shoot Sully, that, like, he was just dead. And I'm like, oh shit, is this why I don't, like, remember if he dies or, like, I didn't remember if he died or not, so, like, but no, he makes it to the end. I like the ending too, by the way. It kind of leads off on a good note to where you could just kind of end the series there. It's implied that Nathan Drake is gonna ask Elena to marry him or whatever, or Elaine, or whatever, yeah, you know, to marry him and whatnot. There's this great line from Sully about how you gotta, like, choose greatness with the hand that you're dealt. I think that was pretty cool. So, yeah, I think that overall, as the third game in the series, and as the underrated title, for sure, because everyone seems to hate this game or think that it's actively not as good as 2 or whatever. That's, like, everyone's criticism with the game. Just because it's not as good as your favorite entry in the series doesn't mean that you shouldn't give it a chance to, like, be the best entry, even if it's not your favorite entry, you know? Come on, let's be objective here, I would say. And I just think that everything is very much improved from the second and the first game. Everything works, and it's done a lot better. Even the combat is like, they made a whole system for it. Now, it can be seen as a little bit annoying, but I think it's cool how they have a dynamic in the game, and especially really late into the game, where you could go up and combat an enemy, but there's going to be guys shooting at you from everywhere. Snipers on you, grenades. You're probably going to die if you don't choose your moment perfectly. And there's a lot of good stealth elements to this game too, which is cool. So I feel like they finally got all of the elements that they wanted to put into the game, and they did it well. So the gameplay definitely holds solid. Like I said, the story and the characters and all of that. They had what's her face at the beginning of this game, Chloe, right? Isn't that her name? And she just kind of, at some point, she just falls out of the story, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess she's not in this anymore. Good, because I don't want her to be in this that much. I obviously want, you know, I'd like Elena or whatever there. So, because that's, you know, that's the real ship here. Why have the other girl if we all know that they're gonna end up together at the end of the day? So, and we do know that because I mean, I've seen brief glimpses of Uncharted 4, so I assume that that's where that's headed. I wonder if they're gonna pull a Crystal Skull on Sully or something and just kind of like kill him off screen or something. Or maybe it'll be like at the beginning of the game, it'll be some kind of fucking Last of Us 2 shit or something. But, or if he's just in the game, I don't know. It just seems like he'd be getting old. That's one of the main themes of this game, funnily enough, because of Metal Gear Solid 4, is like, is Sully kind of getting old. And then I assume that the next game is gonna be Nathan Drake getting old, too old for doing all of the treasure hunting and whatnot. I would have loved to have seen if they had made a National Treasure 3, and then now we can have a National Treasure 4 where Nick Cage is just an old man. That's where he's just old and he's too old for the treasure hunting. That would have been pretty funny, but I just think that, yeah, I thought that was a good storyline and a good direction to take Sully and his character, because he wasn't really that, like, not that he wasn't a character before, but he didn't have much going on for him, you know, outside of being the sort of sidekick character there. But I like how they kind of integrated him to Nathan Drake's backstory, and they showed us why he meant so much to Nathan Drake, and then we get to feel that as well and be connected to that character in that regard. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. So that was a cool aspect. I think that the soundtrack overall was a much more, not just cinematic, but beyond that. The other two games, they were just like cinematic soundtracks, and they're kind of forgettable music. But like while I was playing this, I'm like, man, there's some like pretty good. This is pretty good shit. This is getting me pumped to like fucking go through the game and shit, and within all the big action set pieces and whatnot. So I just thought the sound and the music design there was really cool and really well done. Um, but yeah, like the gameplay, like I said, is much improved, and it all really controls super well, and there are far less deaths from game error. Rather, it was my error when there were deaths, and there's a lot more action in this game versus the platforming and whatnot. But there's still a lot of platforming. It's just like there's a lot of action set pieces where you shoot down a bunch of guys and stuff, which happened in the other games, but I feel like the balance here was pretty good, though, on that as well. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, just like in comparison to the other two games, it really stands out to me as the best entry. It's so good that they put it on the cover of the Uncharted collection. That's him in the desert, very clearly, right? It's gotta be. Yeah. I don't know if it was necessarily shorter than the other games either, but it felt like it went at a good pace. Maybe not like a super quick pace, but it was like every chapter felt very significant, even though there was like they all felt really relevant. Like some of the chapters in like Uncharted 2 and 1 kind of felt like, yeah, okay, so you threw in an action set piece chapter so we could just like, but all these felt relevant to where they felt integrated into the story and everything, and the locations of where they were going. It all made sense to that. It was just really well done in that regard. The villains, I guess, were a little underwhelming in this one, I will say, because they kind of just show up at a lot of key points and just cause mayhem and whatnot, but it's like they kind of die off like chumps, and there's not really a final boss fight. It's more equivalent to like, well, it's like a Metal Gear Solid game where, let's say you just fought Liquid on top of Rex and you didn't actually fight Metal Gear Rex, you just fought Liquid, with punching and all that. Like, that was fine, and that's great. It's a great thing. But if you hadn't fought Metal Gear Rex, that would be as cool. That's how it felt. Like, there wasn't really a final boss. It was just kind of a hand-to-hand combat thing. Hand-to-hand is the basis of all combat. Only a fool trusts his life to a weapon. But anyway, so, yeah, it was just kind of a hand-to-hand thing. I mean, there was a big shootout before that, and, there's a whole thing with that, and that was cool and everything, and I think a lot of that was really well done, but there wasn't really, like, a final boss like there was in the other two games. I mean, not that the final boss in, like, 1 was that special. The 2-1 was pretty good, I would say. I just was kind of hoping there'd be something like that in here, but I guess there really wasn't. So that's a one minor downfall kind of thing. And the ending there in the city, like at the very end where you're like escaping or whatever, and I'm like, this seems a lot like Uncharted 2 in that escape sequence. So yeah, sort of similar there. I still think it was cool and it was well done enough. But like, you just kind of get through that, and then you see the little achievement pop up like, oh, easy Uncharted, cool, like you did it. And I'm like, okay, that was the ending? Like, it didn't feel, I don't know, it just felt a little underwhelming. Not that it was underwhelming in a bad way. I don't know, it just, the other endings had like more definitive, like, okay, you beat the final boss, now the game is over, that makes sense. It just kind of ends with you escaping, and then that's it, like, that's how it is. It's like, oh, okay. And the ending is great. It's just the the gameplay leading up to that just kind of seemed odd. Um, you know, like it's just like a little section of like platforming, which you've done a ton of in the rest of the game. It's not like Metal Gear Solid or something where you're on this like Jeep and Liquid is actively still chasing you after you've thought he's dead like 4 times. Um, and it's like this epic like shootout thing. It's not like that. It was just, I mean, they did that before, but then it was like, it's just like, oh, okay, I jumped across a few things. The game's over now. Cool. Like, I don't know. It just seemed odd, but yeah. Oh, there were, I don't know. There wasn't like necessarily a lot of like divergent sort of gameplay stuff. Like there was the stuff where you ride the horse at the end and like jump on the trucks, which was kind of reminiscent of Uncharted 2. But like in Uncharted 1 there was like that whole jet ski thing and there was a bunch of other shit like that. I can't really think of what there was in Uncharted 2, but like I don't know, I just felt like these games always did something kind of like that, which I guess would be the horse segment at the end. So that was fine. I mean, that's cool or whatever. But I guess my other main criticism, which is just a minor criticism still, but the other criticism is that no treasure again, and they kind of like try to sideline that at the end. They're like, "Oh, it's enough, like we got a few coins, it'll be enough or whatever." Like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, sure. Like in the first Uncharted, you kind of get something for your spoils, and I get that the treasures, the friends we made along the way or whatever, but like I don't know. This seems like a cop out, especially in like Uncharted 2. They do that same shit, and I'm just like, yeah, this is dumb. Like, fucking every National Treasure movie ends with fucking Ben Gates getting treasure, like massive treasures. Like even the Indiana Jones movies, it's like fucking, he doesn't get the cup, the Holy Grail. He doesn't get the Holy Grail. It just fucking falls. Spoilers for Indiana Jones, which you probably should have seen by now. The Lost Ark just ends up being a bunch of bullshit. I mean, not a bunch of bullshit. I mean, it is real, but he doesn't get anything from that. You know what I mean? I don't even think he gets anything in the second movie. See, he gets fucked every single time, Indiana Jones. And then, yeah, it's just weird. These games and these movies are about treasure hunting, and you know they never get anything for it, which is just strange. I don't know. It just seems odd to me. That's all. Minor criticism there. Would have been nice to have had some kind of payoff or something, but I get it. It's not the relevant part of what is going on in the story. It's more about the journey and the adventure and discovering this historical sort of secret or whatever. Which, I mean, maybe in that regard, I still feel like the first game probably did that the best, or maybe the second game. I don't know. I don't even know if this was that great of like a, it was like, oh, it's a lost thing or whatever. Like, cool. The water makes people go mad. It's like, yeah, it's real innovative there, game. Like, super crazy stuff. Now I get the application of that and what that could have been used for and this and that, but I don't know. It just seemed like kind of lackluster in comparison. But I still liked the storyline. I still thought it was good. I still thought they did. It was definitely well implemented and like I said, and there was just a lot of better character moments and stuff. Um, yeah, all of that stuff just worked better, I think, than like pretty much than either of the other two games. But in terms of plot, maybe Uncharted 1 has like the best like hunt for the treasure kind of thing. I don't know. And the best payoff because they actually get treasure in that game. So yeah. The yeah. Like graphically, I know it probably wasn't that much of an upgrade, but it looks pretty dang good, and especially considering like I know I'm not playing the PS3 version, but I remember the PS3 version. Obviously, I have it. This version I played originally, but I remember it looking really good. I mean, it was 2011, so they better have fucking made it look good at that point. I mean, The Last of Us looked fucking dope, and that was only 2 years later. So, um, we'll get to that sometime here. I'll have to play a game in between these, but yeah, we'll get to The Last of Us. That's gonna happen before Uncharted 4. Hopefully, I'll get to that soon, Uncharted 4. But I just think that, I mean, I don't have a lot more to say about Uncharted 3, but I think that, well, I guess like I think it's cool the whole progression of Nathan Drake's character and his arc, and I like as a closing thoughts, because I mean this is now completed, this trilogy here, this collection. Um, I think that the three Uncharted games in general are really good games. I think that the first one has some flaws, but overall it's a great origin story. I think the second one is pretty overrated, but it's still a good game. Overall, I'm not gonna say it's generation defining. I mean, but it was a pretty solid sequel to the first game. I still prefer the first game, but the third game is really the best of both worlds, and it is the best Uncharted experience in terms of gameplay and music and characters and all of that. And there's only very minor things that maybe the other two games would have above it, in my opinion. So I still think it's the best of the Uncharted games so far. Now, I didn't play Golden Abyss either, but I'm pretty sure that's not better than Uncharted 3. So, God, I do have to play that before I play fucking Uncharted 4. I'm not playing Golden Abyss, sorry. I don't even have the game anymore, plus, I have to, like, dig out my Vita or whatever. But, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. There's not like too terribly much to say about the game. I just think that it's pretty underrated in terms of Uncharted because everyone doesn't like it because it's not as good as 2. So I think if you still have that mindset and you just played it back in the day or whatever, give it another shot. I still think, I don't know, I just think it's really well done. I think it's the best one. Music's good. It's graphically good. The characters, the storyline, everything lines up. I like that you get to see Nathan Drake's origin story because we needed to see that for sure before the trilogy kind of came to a close. And then I like that it had a lot of parallels with kind of Indiana Jones backstory, his childhood stuff there. And I like how Sully kind of took on this father figure role, and they kind of bring that up at the end, and I thought that was pretty cool. I like how the origin story is also him getting his ring. I thought that was neat, and how they tied the ring into like starting this whole journey. So it was like it's the perfect like the end, the last adventure he goes on. Okay, there's Uncharted 4, but at the time, the last adventure he goes on also ties into the first adventure he went on that we know of. So it comes full circle. It's symbiotic. It's a journey. It's a great relationship there. It's cool. I like that. So yeah, but shit, I think it's really good, and I'm gonna give it a 9.2 out of 10. Because I think it's the best Uncharted game. And you can fight me on that, I guess, because everyone seems to think not. So, but I think it is. I think it's definitely the best Uncharted game. I'm looking forward to Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us, I guess, because the reason I'm going to play The Last of Us in between is, well, it came out in between, and also the gameplay kind of from the Uncharted games, in terms of the gunplay and the duck and cover stuff, kind of evolves into The Last of Us, and then there wasn't as much of the platforming and stuff, obviously, but and the storytelling ability and the characters and all that, the characterization and their Naughty Dog's like prowess of telling a great story with its characters kind of started here, and the story here is usually more lighthearted, but they kind of go into some serious stuff. But like The Last of Us is really serious most of the time, with very few lighthearted elements to remind you that it's not all shit. The apocalypse there or whatever, but it's definitely a lot darker than the Uncharted series. So yeah, so we'll be doing that one next time after I gotta beat a new game, and then that's the pattern, new game, replay, new game, replay. So yeah, after something else, which we'll see what I beat as a new game. But yeah, so Uncharted 3, it's a good game. It gets 2 thumbs up, Jay-Z's stamp of approval, and his underrated game. Put that on it. You do the thing, you do it right, it works. It just works. So, you take that to the bank with you. Uncharted 3, best Uncharted game. It's a great series. Especially if you're a fan of like Indiana Jones and National Treasure and whatnot, you want to play something like that. Like I said it in my other review, like this is the best like approximation to a National Treasure or Indiana Jones game that we ever would have got. I mean, there were some Indiana Jones games, but like, I don't know. I just feel like this is like the perfect kind of modern interpretation of those sort of things. It kind of carried the torch along of those. So, yeah, it was cool. And this time they didn't steal that much from National Treasure. Maybe this is what the third National Treasure will be about, as him in a desert or something. That'd be pretty funny. So yeah, anyway. So this has been JZNES saying keep it classic. Stick around for more reviews, underrated games. I'll see you guys in the next one. JZ